Story 1. They say if you walk into Blackthorn Maze on Halloween night and the wind stops blowing, you're already too late to turn back. I never believed them until last year. My name is Emily. This is what really happened to Jack and me. Jack had seen the ad online. Blackthorn Corn Maze, voted the scariest in the state 3 years running. It was 2 hours from the city, out where the fields stretch so wide you can't see a single porch light. We wanted one perfect, stupid, spooky night before real life swallowed us whole. So we drove out at sunset, laughing, windows down, Halloween playlist blasting. The ticket guy wore a burlap mask and never spoke. He just pointed to the entrance cut into the tall green walls of corn and took our phones for the full experience. No signal inside, he said, makes it scarier. We stepped in at dusk. The paths were narrow, the stalks higher than our heads. At first, it was everything we hoped for. Jump scares, fake blood, teenagers in hockey masks leaping out with chainsaws that weren't plugged in. We screamed, clung to each other, kissed between scares like idiots in love. Jack kept saying, "Best date ever." Then the sun dropped, and the laughter from other groups faded. The sky turned the color of a bruise. The air got thick, sweet, wrong. Our flashlights started flickering even with fresh batteries. The paths that had been straight now bent when we weren't looking. We walked the same row of scarecrows 3 times. The 4th time, one of the scarecrows turned its head. That's when the whispering started. Emily, Jack. Soft, dry, like corn husks rubbing together, coming from everywhere and nowhere. We told ourselves it was part of the show. We held hands tighter and tried to find the exit. But the red arrows painted on wooden signs kept pointing us deeper. Our phones were gone, remember? No maps, no calls, just the 2 of us and the growing dark. The shadows between the stalks stopped looking like shadows. They moved on their own, tall and thin, keeping pace with us. I felt fingers brush the back of my neck that weren't Jack's. He swore he saw something wearing his face walk parallel to us, just out of sight. I was laughing nervously when my foot caught on something soft. I thought it was a prop. I even joked, "Nice touch, guys." Then I looked down with the flashlight. A hand, pale, still warm. The nails were painted black for Halloween. The wrist ended in wet red ribbons. I knew those chipped nails. I'd watched my best friend paint them 2 nights earlier. She'd come here with her boyfriend before us. I screamed so hard my throat bled. Jack dragged me up and we ran. The paths closed behind us like teeth. Corn stalks leaned in, slicing our cheeks and arms with their sharp leaves. The whispers became words. Stay. Harvest is ready. Souls ripen so sweet. We burst into the center of the maze, a perfect circle. No exit. In the middle stood a man in overalls and a straw hat, holding a rusted scythe that caught the moonlight wrong. His face was wrong too. Skin like dried corn husk stretched over bone, eyes just black pits leaking dirt. He smiled with too many teeth. "Welcome home," he rasped. "Been waiting since 1873. Every Halloween the field gets hungry. Needs new workers to tend the rows forever." Roots burst from the ground, thick and wet, wrapping our ankles. They dragged us to our knees. I felt them crawl under my skin like worms. Jack looked at me, eyes wide, tears cutting clean lines through the blood on his face. He kissed me hard, tasting like copper and goodbye. "I love you," he said. Then he grabbed the scythe from the farmer's bony hands and swung it at his own throat. The roots screamed, the farmer screamed, the whole maze screamed. In that second of chaos, the circle cracked open, a single path glowing faint orange. Jack shoved me toward it with the last of his strength. "Run, Em, don't look back!" I ran. Behind me, the maze folded shut like a mouth. I heard Jack's voice join the whispering, soft and dry, calling my name with all the others. I stumbled out just before dawn. They found me on the dirt road, barefoot, covered in blood that wasn't all mine. The maze was gone, just an empty field. Police said I was in shock, hallucinating, no bodies, no corn, nothing. But every night when I close my eyes, I'm back in the rows. I feel the roots under my skin, waiting. And sometimes when the wind stops blowing on October nights, I hear him. Jack's voice mixed with the rest. Emily, come back. Harvest is almost ready. I haven't cut my nails since. They're growing black. Story 2. They say never take something home from a thrift store on Halloween, especially if the old woman behind the counter smiles like she's been waiting for you. I didn't listen. Now my family pays for it every single night. My name is Sarah Thompson. This is the real reason we don't answer the door anymore. Last year we wanted the perfect Halloween. Mark and I, Lily, who's 10 going on 16, and little Max, who still believes in everything good. We turned our house into a haunted wonderland. Cobwebs, flickering candles, spooky music on loop. The centerpiece was this beautiful wooden bowl I found at the thrift shop for $3. Hand-carved, dark as dried blood, with strange little symbols around the rim. The lady at the register wrapped it in newspaper without meeting my eyes and whispered, "Sweetest teeth get the sharpest bite." I laughed, thought she was being festive. We filled that bowl to the brim with candy and set it on the porch for trick-or-treaters. Then we brought it inside for the party, 30 kids, 20 adults, everyone in costume. The bowl never emptied. I kept pouring in bags of Snickers and Skittles, but it always looked full, glistening like wet jewels. The first scream came at 8:47 p.m. Mark was dressed as a werewolf. He reached for a fun-sized Twix and froze. His eyes went huge behind the mask. Lily, Max, no. He dropped to his knees, clawing at the carpet like he was trying to pull our children out of something's jaws. He screamed that monsters were eating them alive right in front of him. I ran to him, but he shoved me away, howling, blood under his fingernails from scratching his own arms. Then Lily started shrieking from the couch. She was ripping at her fairy princess dress, yelling that bugs were crawling under her skin, laying eggs in her veins. I watched red welts bloom across her arms where there was nothing. Max curled into a ball, sobbing that the candy was moving inside his tummy, chewing its way out. One by one, every guest lost their minds. A mom in a cat costume attacked her husband because she swore he was a faceless thing wearing his skin. Teenagers clawed at their own faces trying to dig out spiders that weren't there. Someone smashed the living room window and jumped. We heard the wet sound 2 stories down. Mark and I dragged the kids to the basement and locked the door. Upstairs became a slaughterhouse of screams and breaking glass. Then it went quiet. Too quiet. The bowl was down there with us. I don't remember bringing it. It sat on the workbench, full again, candy shining like it was wet. Lily whispered, "Mommy, it's breathing." And it was. Slow rise and fall, like lungs under the wood. At midnight, the lights died. Cold poured in like water. She stepped out of the shadows where the water heater should have been. An old woman in a black dress, rotten with age. Skin gray and cracked like burnt paper, eyes just empty sockets leaking candle smoke. She pointed a bone-thin finger at the bowl. "Mine," she croaked. "Stolen the night they hanged me. Every sweetness demands a price. One soul freely given breaks the curse, or all of you feed me forever." The candy started writhing. Worms, teeth, tiny fingers pushing up through chocolate. Lily screamed and blood ran from her ears. Max vomited black spiders that skittered toward us. Mark looked at me. I already knew. He kissed each of the kids, then me, long and slow like he was memorizing the taste. "I love you," he said. Then he picked up the bowl, hugged it to his chest, and walked straight into the dark where the witch waited. She wrapped her arms around him like a lover. They sank into the floor like it was deep water. The bowl shattered into 1,000 black moths that flew up the stairs and out of the house. Silence. The lights came back. The porch was empty. No bodies, no blood. Police said mass hysteria, bad punch, kids exaggerating. We were the only ones left alive. We burned every piece of candy in the fireplace. We smashed every mirror so we wouldn't have to see our eyes. But every Halloween at 8:47 p.m., the bowl comes back. It sits on the kitchen table, full and glistening. Sometimes we hear Mark's voice from inside it, soft and hopeful. Just one more soul, Sarah. Let the kids have a piece. We're waiting. We've nailed the doors shut. We don't turn on the porch light. But the bowl is breathing again tonight. And Lily just asked if she can have something sweet. Story 3. They say if you dance at Harrogate Manor on Halloween, the dead keep the last waltz. I thought it was just a pretty warning. Now I sleep with the lights on and still feel cold fingers on my neck. My name is Alex. This is why I will never wear another costume as long as I live. Jordan and I had been together 3 years, engaged for 3 weeks. Our friends rented the old Harrogate place for the party. Black tie Halloween, Victorian theme, no expense spared. The mansion sat alone on a cliff above the sea, all gargoyles and cracked marble. We arrived at twilight in rented clothes, me in tails and top hat, Jordan in a blood-red ball gown with lace that brushed the floor like whispers. She looked like something painted in 1897 and never allowed to leave the frame. Inside, chandeliers dripped real candles. A string quartet played waltzes that felt older than the house. We drank champagne and spun under the lights until our feet hurt and our hearts felt huge. Jordan's laugh rang like bells. I remember thinking, this is the happiest night of my life. Then the storm hit. Thunder cracked so hard the windows rattled in their frames. Lightning turned the room white for one heartbeat, and every candle went out at once. Total dark. People laughed nervously, phones came out, but no signal. When the backup generator kicked in, the chandeliers flickered back, sickly yellow. That's when Jordan grabbed my hand too tight. My dress, she whispered. It's stuck. The lace had fused to her skin. I thought the wax from the candles had melted it, but when I tried to pull the fabric away, it bled. All around us, the same thing. Gloves knitting into wrists, fake beards growing into jaws, plastic fangs sinking through lips like they belonged there. A woman screamed that her mask wouldn't come off. When her husband tore at it, half her face came with it. The music stopped mid-note. Jordan's eyes rolled black, no white, no color, just oil. She smiled with someone else's mouth and spoke in a voice that sounded like 100 people talking through rotting leaves. Old words. Latin, maybe older. Suddenly I was somewhere else. I saw the same ballroom, same chandeliers, but 100 years ago. Men in the same tails, women in the same gowns. Only their faces were wrong, stretched, melting. Someone with a silver knife opened throats in perfect time with the music. Blood hit the floor in splashes that looked rehearsed. They danced while they died, forced to keep stepping, keep smiling, until the last body dropped. I came back to myself, gasping. Jordan, no. The thing inside Jordan pressed her forehead to mine. You're late to the party, darling, it sang. We've been waiting. The possessed turned on the rest of us. A man in a plague doctor mask used his cane like a spear, running people through. A girl in a cracked porcelain doll face smashed champagne bottles and carved smiles into cheeks. Party props became real weapons in dead hands. I saw our friend Mia get her throat opened by a plastic scythe that somehow had an edge now. I dragged Jordan toward the door, begging her to fight it. She laughed with that terrible chorus voice and dug her nails into my arm until they drew blood. The front doors were locked. Every exit sealed like the house had swallowed us. Someone shouted, "The costumes, burn them!" A guy in a pirate outfit set his sleeve on fire with a candle. The fabric screamed, peeled away from his skin like it was alive, and the spirit inside him burst out in black smoke. He collapsed, free but half-cooked. I grabbed a candelabra, touched flame to my coattails. The cloth shrieked, tried to crawl deeper into me. Pain exploded across my back, but the tails tore loose in burning pieces. The cold thing that had started climbing my spine let go. Jordan wouldn't let me near her dress. She backed away, smiling that awful smile, red gown dragging like a wound. Windows exploded outward from the storm, rain lashed in. She walked straight through the broken glass into the night, barefoot, calling my name in voices that weren't hers. I ran after her. Lightning showed me flashes, Jordan on the cliff path, hair whipping, arms raised to the sky. Behind her, shapes in old-fashioned clothes followed, dancing though their feet never touched the ground. I screamed until my throat bled, but she never looked back. I reached the edge too late. The gown flared like a red sail, and she stepped off the cliff into nothing. Police found me at dawn, soaked and babbling. They never found her body. They said she must have been swept out to sea. But every Halloween, when the wind smells like candle smoke and salt, I hear heels on the driveway. The doorbell rings once. When I open it, no one's there, only wet footprints leading away, and a single red lace glove on the mat, warm, like it was just taken off. And sometimes, late, I wake to the sound of a waltz I almost remember. Cold fingers brush my cheek. A voice that is almost Jordan whispers, "Save the last dance for me, darling." I keep the lights on. I never dance. Story 4. They say if you ring the wrong doorbell on Halloween, the house rings you back forever. We learned that the hard way. My name is Sofia Ramirez. This is why my family never celebrates October 31st anymore. Last year, we just wanted normal fun. Mom, Elena, Dad, Carlos, my little brother Diego, 14 and acting tough, and me, 16 and pretending I was too old for this. We drove to Ridgewood Estates because the houses are huge and the candy is full size. Everyone said it was the best neighborhood in the county. We parked at the end of Maple Drive, where the streetlights stopped working. It looked foggy, but the fog smelled like pennies and smoke. Still, the porches were lit with jack-o'-lanterns, so we started knocking. First few houses were great, king-size Kit Kats, $20 bills, bowls that said "Take 2." Then the streets got quieter. No more kids, no more music. Just empty sidewalks and pumpkins that grinned too wide. We turned a corner we didn't remember walking down, and suddenly every house looked dead. Boarded windows, peeling paint, but the porch lights were on, orange and steady, like they were waiting for us. The first door we knocked on opened by itself. Inside was a living room lit by candles. A woman chained to the floor looked up, mouth sewn shut with black thread, eyes begging. Before we could scream, hands in white masks yanked us in and slammed the door. Needles flashed, cold fire in our necks. Everything tilted. When the world came back, we were separated. I woke up in a basement that smelled like bleach and meat. A voice crackled over a speaker. "Hide and seek starts now. Find your family before the Reaper finds you. Happy Halloween." Chainsaw roar upstairs. I ran. Doors opened into nightmares. One room had an altar dripping red, photos of missing kids pinned like butterflies. Another had a bathtub full of candy and floating hands. I found Mom and Dad in a kitchen, beating a masked cultist with a plastic pumpkin bucket full of rocks we'd grabbed from a yard. Dad's face was swollen from whatever they injected us with. He kept seeing snakes coming out of the walls. Mom was crying blood but swinging a metal candelabra like a baseball bat. "Where's Diego?" I screamed. They pointed down the hall. I found my brother in a bedroom with no windows. He was on his knees, shirt torn off. A cultist in a goat mask was carving something into Diego's chest with a knife that glowed orange. The symbol looked like a pumpkin with too many teeth. Diego's eyes rolled back. He whispered, "Sophie, it feels good," like he already belonged to them. I charged, hit the goat mask with a metal bedpost I'd ripped off. We dragged Diego out, blood soaking his hoodie. The chainsaw guy burst through the wall like it was paper. Dad shoved a lit road flare from someone's decoration into the maniac's mask, screaming, burning plastic smell. We ran. Every house we escaped led to another house. The whole block was connected inside, like a hive. We smashed windows, crawled through yards where scarecrows turned their heads. At one point, Mom threw handfuls of candy at cultists. The Jolly Ranchers exploded like glass grenades when they hit the masks. Turns out some were filled with nails. Dawn was a thin gray line when we stumbled onto a real street. Sirens finally came. Police said we'd been hallucinating, that the abandoned district had been empty for years. No cult, no bodies, just 4 hysterical Latinos covered in blood that probably came from a prank gone wrong. They let us go home. For weeks we healed. Scars, nightmares, therapy. Then October came again. The symbol appeared on Diego's chest first, raised and black, like a burn that never healed. Then Mom's wrist, Dad's neck. Mine showed up on my ribs the night before Halloween, itching like something moving underneath. Last night the doorbell rang at midnight. We didn't open it, but the porch camera showed Diego standing outside in his bloody hoodie from last year, smiling too wide. He held a plastic pumpkin bucket that was full of teeth. Behind him, every house on our street had its porch light on, orange and waiting. He waved at the camera and spoke with a voice that sounded like many voices. "Ready for round 2, Sophie? You can run, but the neighborhood always finds you. We've nailed the doors shut. We turned off every light, but the symbol on my skin is warm now, pulsing like a second heartbeat, and someone is knocking from the inside of the walls, tick-tock, trick or treat. It's almost time to play again." Story 5. They say the Midnight Harvest ride only takes one couple every 7 years. If you hear the tractor before you see its lights, it's already too late. I heard it. I still hear it. My name is Mia. This is the last thing I'll ever tell anyone about Liam. We wanted something quiet and creepy, just the 2 of us. No parties, no drunk friends, just a late-night hayride through the old Fletcher farms. The website promised fog, lanterns, a few jump scares, hot cider at the end. Perfect for Halloween. We paid $30 each, climbed onto the last wagon at 11:47 p.m., snuggled under a scratchy blanket, and kissed while the tractor coughed to life. The ride started sweet. Orange lights strung along the wagon, recorded screams and witch laughs. Actors in burlap masks jumped from the corn, waving rubber axes. We laughed, hearts racing in the good way. Liam's hand was warm in mine. He kept whispering, "Marry me next fall?" like it was already decided. I kept saying yes against his neck. Then the fog got thick enough to chew. The tractor slowed. The driver, an old man in overalls, stood up, looked back at us once with eyes like empty wells, and simply stepped off. He walked into the fog and was gone. The tractor kept rolling on its own, turning left where no path had been before. The wagon lights died. Cold poured in, real cold, the kind that hurts bones. The other riders, maybe 10 of us, went quiet. The wheels bumped over something soft. Someone's phone flashlight showed fresh-turned earth where grass should have been. Graves. Rows and rows of unmarked mounds. Hands came up through the dirt. Gray, thin, hungry. They grabbed ankles first. A woman in front of us screamed as fingers punched through her sneakers and dragged her backward into the soil like she weighed nothing. She clawed furrows in the dirt, then she was gone. Only her scream kept falling, farther and farther down. The wagon stopped in the middle of the burial ground. They rose all around us, men in rotted coats, women in bonnets black with mold, children with hollow faces. Settlers from hundreds of years ago. Their mouths moved at once, same words, same hunger. "You left us to starve. Now feed us." They climbed the wagon's sides like spiders. Liam shoved me behind him. He swung the metal thermos we'd brought, cracked skulls that caved like wet paper. But there were too many. Spectral hands wrapped his legs, his waist, his throat. They pulled him over the edge. I grabbed his hands, our fingers locked. For 1 second, his eyes were still his, scared, sorry, loving me. Then the earth took him. He sank fast, mouth open in a scream that never ran out of air. Dirt poured in on top of him like an hourglass running backward. I felt every grain hit his face. I was next. They didn't kill me. They wanted me to understand. Suddenly, I was starving. My belly folded in on itself. I felt ribs crack and poke through skin. I watched Liam, my Liam, turn on me with an axe made of ice, eyes forgiving even as he swung. I saw neighbors eat their own children to live one more day. I tasted blood and snow and betrayal. It lasted minutes or years. Time rotted away. When I opened my eyes again, the sun was rising. I was alone on the wagon, parked back at the barn like nothing happened. Blankets still tucked around my knees, the other seats empty. The driver waved good morning and asked if we enjoyed the ride. I stumbled off. My legs worked, but they weren't mine anymore. They felt borrowed. Then I saw it, a fresh wooden marker pushed up through the dirt right where the wagon had stopped. Simple carving, no dates. Liam taken by the harvest forever riding. I fell to my knees and clawed the earth. My nails split. I dug until my fingers bled, but the ground was solid as stone. Underneath, something knocked back. Once, slow, patient. They gave him back my engagement ring. It was tied around the marker with a piece of hay twine. Still warm. I wear it now on a chain. Every Halloween at midnight, the tractor starts up somewhere close, even though the farm closed years ago. I hear the wheels on gravel. I hear voices calling my name like they're happy to see me again. Some nights I walk outside in my pajamas. The fog waits at the end of the driveway. I stand on the curb and feel the ground tremble. Hungry. I haven't said yes to riding again. Not yet. But the ring gets warmer every year, and Liam's voice is so gentle when he whispers through the floorboards, "Come home, Mia. The wagon's not full without you. One of these nights, I'll leave the porch light off. I'll walk into the fog barefoot. I'll let the cold take me. Because love is patient. And the harvest always waits." Story 6. They say never pick the pumpkin that picks you, the one that feels warm when everything else is cold. We didn't know. Now every October the house remembers. My name is Tina Wilson. This is why my children flinch at the smell of autumn leaves. Last year we wanted the perfect family day. Greg, me, Abby, 7 and all gap-toothed smiles. Ben, 5 and still afraid of the dark. We drove out to Old Marrow's pumpkin patch, the one with the hand-painted sign that says, "Biggest in 3 counties." The field looked normal at first. Rows of orange, kids running, cider smell in the air. Then we saw them. 4 pumpkins sitting apart from the rest, huge, almost glowing from the inside like lanterns. No vines attached, just sitting there, pulsing slow and steady, like hearts. Abby ran straight to the biggest one and hugged it. "It's warm, Mommy. It likes me." Ben patted another and laughed when it pulsed under his hand. The farmer nowhere in sight. A little sign stuck in the dirt read, "Free, take 1." We took all 4. In the car, they sat in the back seat between the kids. Abby kept kissing hers. Ben fell asleep with his cheek against his, orange light flickering across his face. At home, we spread newspapers on the kitchen table, ready for carving night. Greg sharpened the big knife. I turned on the Halloween playlist. We drew silly faces first, triangles for eyes, goofy teeth. The second Greg's blade broke the skin of the first pumpkin. Everything changed. The smell hit first, rot and cinnamon and something burning. Then the sound, a wet pop, like joints coming loose. Thick green vines shot out of the cut, whip fast, wrapping Greg's wrist before he could drop the knife. More vines exploded from the other pumpkins, looping around chairs, ankles, throats. They were warm, alive, strong. The pumpkins split open on their own, not hollow, full of teeth. Black smoke poured out, thick as tar, shaping into things with too many arms and burning coal eyes. They went for the kids first. Abby's head snapped back, her eyes rolled orange, bright as jack-o'-lantern fire. She opened her mouth, and words poured out. Old words, cracked and angry, nothing a 7-year-old should know. The demon wearing her skin smiled with her missing tooth grin and said, "Hello, Mommy. We've been growing." Ben lifted off the floor. His little Superman pajamas ripped at the seams as vines lifted him higher. He laughed at first, then opened his mouth and spat seeds, hundreds of them. They hit the floor and grew instantly. Green shoots, thorns, snapping mouths. One vine wrapped my leg and dragged me down. I felt it trying to crawl inside my ear. Greg grabbed the kitchen torch we use for creme brulee. He lit it with shaking hands and burned the vine off his arm. Skin blistered, but he kept going. Fire was the only thing they hated. Where the flame touched, vines screamed and turned black. We fought like animals. I smashed pumpkins with the cast-iron pan, orange guts splattering like blood. Greg torched everything that moved. The thing inside Abby, crawled across the ceiling, speaking backward, promising we would feed the patch forever. Ben hovered above the table, arms out, seeds still pouring from his mouth like a fountain. We got the last pumpkin into the fireplace. Greg poured lighter fluid and threw a match. The fire roared green for a second, then normal orange. The vines withered. The children dropped to the floor, limp. Silence. We held them, crying, checking pulses. They breathed. They opened their eyes. Blue again. Scared again. Abby asked why the kitchen smelled like barbecue. Ben wanted a Band-Aid for a scratch he didn't remember getting. We burned every piece of vine, every seed, every sliver of rind. We scrubbed the house with bleach until our hands bled. Police said kids probably ate bad mushrooms or something. Halloween prank gone wrong. Nothing to see, but every fall the dreams come back. Abby wakes screaming that something is growing in her tummy. Ben draws pictures of pumpkins with our faces carved in them. Sometimes we find tiny green shoots pushing up through the carpet at night. We rip them out before dawn. Last week, I found a warm spot in the backyard, right where we buried the ashes. The dirt there pulses, slow and patient, and every October 30th, just after sunset, the kids stand at the window and stare at the empty field behind our house. They smile the same smile at the same time. Abby whispers, "They're ready again, Mommy." Ben presses his palm to the glass and says, "We left some seeds inside us. They just needed time. Tonight the air smells like cinnamon and rot. There's a new pumpkin on the porch. No vine, no one put it there. It's warm and it's pulsing." Story 7. They say never play with a board that already knows your name. Ours did. It spelled it before we even touched the planchette. My name is Sophia. This is why I sleep with a knife under my pillow and holy water in a baby bottle on the nightstand. Last Halloween, Ethan and I thought it would be fun to scare our friends. We dragged everyone up to the attic, 8 of us, too much wine, fairy lights strung like fake stars. Ethan brought out the Ouija board his grandmother left him when she died. Real wood, letters burned in, planchette heavy as guilt. He swore it was antique, harmless. We lit candles, held hands, giggled like kids. The first question was stupid. "Is anyone here?" The planchette jerked so hard it almost flew off. HELO. Then, without anyone asking, it kept going. SOPHIA. My name, spelled perfect. The room got cold fast. Candles bent sideways. Someone joked it was the AC. Then it spelled Ethan's childhood secret, the cat he accidentally killed when he was 9 and buried under the porch. Then my secret, the abortion I never told him about. One by one it whispered things only the person hiding them should know. Our friend Marcus laughed too loud, said it was a trick. The board spelled MARCUSYOUWILLJUMP. He went white, said shadows were crawling up his legs. We watched him back toward the attic window, eyes huge, screaming that hands were pulling him. He opened the window himself and stepped out. 3 stories. We heard the sound he made when he landed. That's when it said its name. Johnward. Executed October 31st, 1957. Hanged for killing 13 people in this very house. Said he never left. Ethan tried to end the session. Goodbye wouldn't come. The planchette spun in circles, laughing in scratches. Then it shot to Ethan's fingers like it was glued. His head snapped back. His eyes went black, all black, no white left. When he smiled, the teeth looked too sharp. "Hello, darling," he said, but the voice was wet gravel. Time to finish what I started. He stood up slow, like someone else was working his bones. Grabbed the candle snuffer from the table, long brass, pointed end. Came for me. The others ran. Doors slammed downstairs, cars peeled out. I was alone with whatever wore Ethan's skin. The house woke up angry. Pictures flew off walls. The attic stairs folded in on themselves. Blood started running down the wallpaper in perfect straight lines, like someone had painted it fresh. Ethan, no, John, lunged. I threw the little bottle of holy water I'd kept in my pocket. I'm not even religious, I just felt I should bring it. It hit his face and steamed. He screamed in 2 voices, Ethan's pain and something older. Skin blistered where the water touched. I backed against the Ouija board. The planchette was moving on its own now, fast. Givemetechchild. I wasn't pregnant. Not yet. But I felt it then. A tiny spark, like the spirit already knew what we'd planned for next year. Ethan grabbed my throat with one hand, raised the snuffer with the other. I pressed the blessed crucifix necklace my mother forced on me against his wrist. Smoke poured out. He dropped me, howling. I screamed the only prayer I remembered from childhood, over and over, louder each time. The board cracked down the middle. Black liquid oozed out like pus. Ethan's body arched so hard I heard his spine pop. The thing inside him looked straight at my stomach and smiled with my fiance's mouth. "This one's mine," it promised. "I'll wait." Then it ripped out of Ethan like smoke sucked backward into the board. He fell. Neck bent wrong, eyes open, staring at nothing. I burned the board in the backyard at 3 a.m. Poured the rest of the holy water on the ashes, buried what was left under the oak tree. Police called it suicide, said Ethan was on drugs, hallucinating. I let them believe it. 9 months later, I had a son. Beautiful boy. Dark hair like his father. He's almost 1 now. Last night, October 30th, he sat up in his crib and spoke clear as day, in a voice too deep for a baby. "Ready or not, Mommy, tomorrow I come home." He smiled with too many teeth. I keep the knife sharp. I keep the holy water full. Tomorrow is Halloween, and something inside my little boy is counting down the hours. For more stories like this, share and subscribe Goofy Horror.